How to become a director. Well, this is me, Richard Winfield. I am committed to improving board performance, and I help directors become more confident, more effective, more quickly. And this is one of the ways to do it. So the first thing to do is to ask the right question. And the question I'm going to ask you to give you a chance really to think about is, do you really want to become a director? Because there are some advantages and there are a lot of disadvantages. And before we start about how to become a director, it's worth just having a review. So my health risk, and you'll notice this pops up very often in my presentations and in my publications. The first thing is to make quite sure that you understand that limited liability applies to the company. It doesn't apply to the directors. So directors are not protected by limited liability. So make sure that any board you join keeps proper records and follows proper processes and procedures, because if anything should go wrong, the records will be the evidence. There are certain circumstances where risk can pass to the directors. You need to be aware of these. So be aware of the risks. Always consider the implications of decisions and how they may seem if somebody comes back to them in the future. Make sure the board does keep proper minuted records, and also keep your own records. If you disagree with a decision, even if you have been outvoted, you can still be liable for the results of that decision. So just be aware. Make sure any objection you make is properly recorded. Most likely problem is to do with money, and in particular, if you're unable to pay your way. So there are occasions when directors can become personally liable for debts, and particularly if the board and the company continue to trade when there is unreasonable expectation that they'll be able to trade their way out. So when things go wrong, the most important thing you must do is all priorities change, and your sole priority is now to minimize creditors' losses. You must take professional or legal advice. You may have it available internally, but if not, go outside. This is a time when you need to protect yourself and protect the company. As a director, you should at all times be able to demonstrate that the board has been exercising reasonable care, skill, and diligence, and that directors have had regard to the likely consequences of any decision in the long term. Now, that doesn't mean that all your decisions must be right. You're bound to make some wrong decisions on time. What you need to do is make the best decision in the circumstances and make sure that the criteria and the evidence and the things you considered are properly recorded. Think about it as an audit trail and evidence that could, hopefully unlikely, but could come up in court. You can also be liable if the company fails to implement proper processes covering health and safety, control and disposal of hazardous waste, and not submitting documents. Now, you may think, and you probably do, delegate this responsibility of submitting documents to the company secretary. That's fair enough. But nonetheless, as an individual director, you are responsible if they're not submitted properly. So, always read the small print. Make sure that you are up to date and properly educated and have the proper information. And where necessary, ask for help. So one further warning: you don't have to be formally registered as a director to take on the risks and responsibilities of a director. Now, you need to understand this for two reasons. One is that you might find, as you go up your career, that you get into a position where you're at risk. And the other is that you might be in a position, either as a senior manager or on the board, of putting other people at risk. So you do need to understand this. So you can take on the liabilities of a director unknowingly by becoming a shadow director if the directors of a limited company are accustomed to acting in accordance with your decisions or instructions. So if the board or the directors are accustomed to acting in accordance with your directions or instructions, you could well be seen to be a shadow director. Fortunately for people like me, professional advisors giving advice in their professional capacity are specifically excluded from the definition of a shadow director in United Kingdom companies legislation. You can also become a de facto director if you act as a director and hold yourself out to third parties as a director, even if you haven't been legally appointed. So beware, if you make somebody director of sales, you're getting a little bit into a grey area, and you need to make quite sure that all understandings are properly resolved. De facto directors usually carry out all the duties of a director, can make the decisions of a director and sign company documents, and may well be treated as a director by other directors. De facto directors are subject to the same legal duties, responsibilities, and potential liabilities as de jure directors, and will be treated as such by the courts in the case of dispute. It is the role, it's what you actually do and how you are treated, rather than the title, that determines whether you're a director or not. And in the final outcome, the only people who can decide are the courts. There's no definitive test, and all relevant facts need to be taken into account in deciding. So you do need to take some care about these people who are on the edge, and it could be you, who may or may not be a director, even if not properly registered. Anyway, there is good news. Appointment as a director can be a natural stage in your career development and an exceedingly rewarding activity. Directors are involved in an organization at a higher, more strategic level. They have greater leverage and can make a greater contribution. It can also, of course, be financially rewarding. You should expect some compensation for your expertise, experience, and additional risks. So, if you want to become a director, then let's continue. How to become a director. Now, there are several starting points, so let's just consider those. If you're already in an executive role, then you'll have a different way of getting a directorship in your current company from somebody who is out in the outside. So if you're starting a limited company, or you are promoted to a board position in an existing company, then the route is likely to be automatic. You just get there by doing what you normally do in order to get promoted. And if you're successful, you're likely to be appointed, or may well be appointed to the board. Fairly straightforward. Now, there is another way of enhancing or speeding up your career advancement, your progress, by getting a directorship in an outside company. So if you're a successful executive in a large company and are looking to become a director, then a worthwhile approach would be to become a director in a smaller company, possibly a subsidiary of your group or an independent company. So this is a sort of, not quite an apprenticeship, but it's a first set of opportunity. In this case, it would be useful to discuss your aspirations with your line manager and the human resources department. If you are a potential board member, it is in your company's interest for you to gain experience as a director in a smaller organization first. The organization will gain from your corporate experience and may also consider it as part of their corporate social responsibility to mentor potential high flyers. So it's working several ways. They're gaining the advantage of you learning and gaining experience. They're getting an opportunity to see how you get on and what you do. But also, by putting you outside to smaller companies, you're making some contribution to the wider commercial world. Now, this is important. The earlier you start getting committee, trustee, and board experience, the better. And something like 20 years ago would be a jolly good start. So if you would like to take some initiative independently, in other words, if you'd like to take control of your own future career, if you'd like to get some external, independent, non-executive directorships, you should research the opportunity of joining a voluntary organization, either business-related or social. These could range from becoming a school governor, parent governor, member of the Parents Association, a school governor, serving on a committee at a sports club or a charity, or something like joining a hospital trust. So there's a range of things that you can do. The question is, what is the first step you can make? And it's never going to be too small. You seem to be held up. There we are. Anyway, even if you're doing things on the outside, you should still discuss it with your employer to clear any concern about conflict of interest and to ensure that you're able to commit sufficient time. And also, by doing that, you are showing that you're somebody with initiative. Now, if you want to get an external appointment or a non-executive role, and you've preferably already got a record of working on committees and in the voluntary sector, that would be a good start. So if you want to be found, it's a slightly different situation now. If you want to be found, you need to stand out. And it helps if the right people know what you're looking for. So we've got a little bit of a strategy to consider now of how to put yourself about. The first thing you can do is to review your professional relationships. LinkedIn is there for that purpose. But you will surely have lots of informal contacts in your own database, people who know you or have done business with you, for example. And don't ignore the social media like Facebook, people who know you personally and whose own networks might be relevant. Put yourself about. Write articles, join internet forums and contribute to discussions. Write a blog, put videos on your YouTube, attend conferences, go to networking groups, turn up at annual general meetings. And normally I'm suggesting here this would be the annual general meeting of a club or an association, not necessarily the annual general meeting of a company in which you have a share. Because if you turn up, you'll get noticed, you'll meet other people, and you might end up on a committee. And even though that might be some time, and may be a small thing at this stage, it's good experience, and again, you don't know who you're going to meet. You could also write a book, or several books. Technology is free, digital printing means no upfront investment, and Amazon will handle the sales, and short books, 25 to 50 pages, are increasingly acceptable. And there is evidence to say that if it's less than 50 pages, 90% of people who buy one will read it. If it's more, then only 10% will. But whatever it is, it's really useful to have a book with your name on the cover. And in your book, of course, you can include the perfect sales pitch or biography. There is a great deal of kudos in being a published author. It proves that you've taken the trouble to master and explain a subject. And you can slip a copy into any correspondence and leave one as a gift when you first meet a valuable contact. Beats a business card any day. Now, like so many things, the best thing to do when you've decided what you want is to make a plan. Don't settle for joining any board just for the experience. Just because you want to get on a board and an opportunity comes along, don't necessarily jump for it. And certainly don't do it just because it gives you status. Make a plan. Just the same as any job search, you need an objective, a strategy, and a plan. So, first question is, what do you actually want? What size and age of company? It will make a big difference, the sort of company that you would like to be in and which would be suitable for your current stage of experience. Would you prefer established or entrepreneurial company, a service company, a manufacturing company, or professional services? Public sector, private sector, or not-for-profit? Next question is, what have you got to offer? Have you got a specialist expertise, experience, or contacts? These are things you need to think about. Why would anybody want you? Are you a great team worker or a master of detail? Have you been through a flotation, a merger, an acquisition, a sale, or even a liquidation? These are all practical experience that you can leverage. Do you have experience in turnarounds, growth, or change programs? Somewhere there will be an organization facing a similar situation in the future, but lacking experience that you already have. So if you know what it is that you have got to offer, then you can look around for people who might need it. Now, where are you now? Take a serious look at your curriculum vitae. Make a note of everything that you have achieved, the challenges that you've faced. So this is an audit. Identify generic skills, particularly relating to leadership roles. Identify specific skills and specific experience. Build up your personal inventory. Now, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Do you like challenge? Do you like travel? What are some of the things which are suitable for you and which you would find stimulating and motivating? What are your personal values? What is important to you? Have you thought about your legacy? And practical things. Where do you live and how much time have you got to offer? What is your present role, position, status, and reputation at your current employer? How strong is it? And more significantly, how well known is it? And what are your family and social support? What support can you call on? Is it going to be positive? It might not even be that. Are there likely to be any conflicts of interest in time, energy, or relationships? So there will be an impact. How much support and understanding can you rely on? Have you got a mentor or mentors who can help you, particularly people who've been through this process before? And finally, of course, what do you want to achieve? As you conduct this analysis, it's likely that you will start to refine your ideas about what you would like to achieve. And the more specific you will be, the more successful you will be in your search. What would be a reasonable first appointment? Bearing in mind what we said earlier, that you probably need to work up a hierarchy. So don't set your sights too high at this stage, set them higher in the later stages. Do you need to gain breadth of experience or do you need to gain depth of experience? What areas would you most like to be involved in? What sort of people would you like to work with? The more accurately you can describe the perfect situation, the more effectively you can develop a successful strategy and describe what you're looking for to others. And the greater the likelihood that you will notice, and the greater the likelihood that you will notice opportunities as they arise. Now let's talk about networking, because there's going to be a key opportunity for you. Lesson 1, decide who you want to meet and go where they go. Lesson 2, recognize that it might not be who you meet that matters, but who they know. And even more, who those they know. So networking is a cascading exercise. This is only successful, though, if they know and if they can communicate to others who you are, what you have to offer, and what you're looking for. Think of it as a journey from link to link. And remember, every introduction or meeting is an investment in your future. You will get some experience about being interviewed. You will learn things about opportunities in business at the meetings. And every introduction gives you the opportunity for somebody else to know what you're looking for. So you need to have an elevator speech. You need to have an elevator speech that not only attracts the first person you meet, but which enables them to recommend you to the next link in your journey. So it's got to be fairly simple, clear, and memorable so that it can be used by others. Have a clear board level value proposition. And this will be probably different from when you're looking for a management job. Know who you need to meet with based on your directorship strategy. Attend networking events to meet those targeted contacts in person. And if I could just say, my experience is there's a tendency people to like to go to networking events where they meet people like themselves. This is a situation where you've got to go to networking events where you will meet the people you want to meet, need to meet, but they're not necessarily the people you're initially comfortable with. Join associations where these people hold memberships. Speak at executive level events hosted by the industry you've targeted in your strategy to gain a board seat. So have a strategy, a plan, a strategy, and put it into action. Now, your CV. You should have an appropriate CV. It's one of those things you do need to have. But if you're asked for a CV, you're probably in the wrong place, because these jobs, posts, opportunities are normally under the radar. However, it might be an administrative hoop you have to jump through. So even though somebody has found you and is interested in talking to you, their organization might well require you to submit a CV. And if you're applying for an advertised post, particularly one in the public or the private sector, public or third sector, then you will need a CV. Nonetheless, take note of my next few comments. LinkedIn and application letters. These are places where you have control over what you do. So the first step is to sort out your mindset. And I have a little suggestion here. You should devise a plan for recruiting a director. So before thinking about what you need to do to get a job, turn it on its head and think about what you would do if you wanted to recruit somebody like you. It can be really helpful. How would you go about it? You'll be looking for somebody special, won't you? And you're looking for a special person. Not someone off the shelf, not just someone with technical qualifications. And in some ways, directors are more suitable, or non-executive directors, if they have unexpected qualifications. So, if you're on the recruitment side, particularly in a smaller company, you might not really have a very clear plan or specification or needs analysis. You might not be very organized. You might not even realize that you do or would benefit from having another director. So this is a gift for you as the applicant, because you have got a plan. You have got a plan. So think in terms of managing the program of recruitment. Start to think like a headhunter. Devise your own candidate specification. So if you wanted to apply for a job, design your own job. Decide the questions that you would ask at an interview where you are interviewing for the job, to award the job that you want to get, the post. Now, you are in control. Using the exercises described earlier, you can now develop a LinkedIn profile and a template application. So you have these things ready, and they are designed so that when somebody reads them, you are leading them through a sales, a promotion argument, and the conclusion should be, this is the person that I would like to have. So these documents, whether it's your LinkedIn entry, your profile, or it's your template application, every application would need to be customized for the particular opportunity, but these should be sales documents, and they should have hooks so that they capture an inquiry. They should have content to match your strengths to their needs. So if you are thinking about catching someone in a crowd, standing on a soapbox and saying, stop for a moment and listen to me, what are the things you would say? Well, these are passive forms of your argument. So invest time in this exercise. Devour advice on the web, and there's lots of stuff around about how to go about this, and study the profiles of people who are already in the sort of role you seek. Get an idea of what sorts of people are they appointing. Search situations vacancies pages for hints of what recruitment companies are looking for. But remember, most board level searches are done below the radar. They're done through networking and by the pointers searching for the right person. And also to remember that the job that you might want is not going to be an off-the-shelf job in any way, particularly if you're a non-executive. And sometimes the boards that most need you are the ones who are currently appointing people who are too similar to each other, and they need somebody different like you. So keep active on LinkedIn, keep active at going to conferences, and if you can, get yourself into the media. So the good news is now, potentially, you've got an offer. What do? Well, the first thing you do is nothing. You do not accept the first issue, you do not accept the first offer or any offer until you've done some research. So you must do some due diligence. And I'm going to cover this in my next webinar. So these are some of the basic things you need to do. You need to research the organization and find out about the board. You need to remember that there's an opportunity cost in accepting. So if you were to accept this post, this opportunity to sit on a board, could it disqualify you from a better opportunity later? Could there be an element of conflict of interest or something between this post and a future opportunity? So be very careful. As I say, you need to start at a lowish level and work up, but make sure you're not accepting something that might get in the way of a better offer in a little while. Could the experience and credibility gained strengthen your qualifications for future opportunities? So it works two ways. Think of it. Could it stop you? Could it disqualify you? But also, would it be the right sort of experience so that when another opportunity comes along, this particular post could be really valuable to you? And when you turn up for an interview, remember it is a two-way process. Show your enthusiasm and ask searching questions. So you need to be in a position to interview them. And also, they should be looking for someone who will contribute and not a box ticker. So it's an opportunity to demonstrate how you would be prepared to operate if you were a member of the board. Every meeting or interview is a learning experience. Whether it is apparently successful or not, you will have had some practice, some experience, and you will bound to have learned something more about what people are looking for, and also more about different industries and businesses. And whatever it is, it will be an opportunity to raise your profile. So the people who have interviewed you will now know you and what you have to offer. And that might actually be the most useful outcome, because they might just happen to speak to somebody else. So in the next webinar, I shall explain the 7 things you must do before joining any board. So look forward to talking to you at the next webinar. Thank you very much. See you soon.